Are you ready? Stand by.
Hey everybody, I'm Dave Hartman, and welcome to the Three Gun Show, the world's largest three-gun podcast. This is episode 232, where the never-ending gear quest that is Three Gun brings us around to discussing how to select a 2011 pistol, what features to look for, why certain ones are desirable, and what to avoid. This is a round-table discussion with several great friends of the show, Adam Maxwell, Travis Vogel, and Josh Tarrant. Now, the 2011 style pistol is the number one platform that I see at major matches. Now, club matches, it's a bit different. You'll see all kinds of $500 polymer pistols out there, and CZ, pretty much anything, right? But most major matches are completely ruled by 2011s. Many companies hand-fit these 9mm double stack pistols in very small volumes, and a few build them on a larger scale as well. In this context, we're mostly talking about custom 2011 pistols, so keep that in mind. Now, it is interesting if you look at Three Gun versus USPSA, right? In USPSA, each division has different rules and different guns excel at those rules. You've got like CZs, single stack 1911s, revolvers, 2011s. They all play in different divisions, right? But with Three Gun, our rule set basically stipulates USPSA Limited Division style rules for both TAC Ops and Limited, and open, is open, right? So this means that the raciest of race guns in each division end up being a 2011 style pistol. So when AMAX suggested this topic for some after hours discussion at Hard as Hell 2018, I knew it would be a good one. So this will probably be a loose series of podcasts around the 2011 as we explore this topic, and I myself begin the process of shopping for a 2011 pistol. So why start with shooters and not a builder, you might ask? Well, these guys are enthusiasts. They're dedicated shooters that spend a lot of time considering their gear. And as with most things in life, we ask the folks around us who have been there and done that what they learned from the process to shortcut our learning curve. And these guys certainly delivered. So I learned a lot in this one. Hope you do as well, and enjoy this roundtable discussion with Josh Tarrant, Travis Vogel, and Adam Maxwell. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's up, Dave?
Good to be back again.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, we're going to be talking 2011s here, and we have a bunch of 2011s sitting on the table. I'm actually holding one that's not mine, but probably will go home with me.
Not sure how the owner feels about that, but
hey, you won't have a choice. I'll have the pistol.
There you go. You hold the power.
Yeah, exactly. So joining us here on the podcast, we got Travis Vogel. Travis, welcome back to the show, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, and I'm pumped to be doing this because we're going to shoot a match tomorrow. We're shooting Hard as Hell tomorrow.
I've never shot Hard as Hell. I'm actually really excited.
Are you?
Really excited, yeah.
What'd you think walking through the stages today?
I just hope that mud doesn't get me like it got me tonight. So.
Yeah, we were on the zero range, and we were slipping and sliding a little bit. Almost took a digger.
Two or three times.
That is definitely going to play a factor tomorrow.
Really I hope it's dry.
Really makes me angry when we come to the desert and it rains.
Yeah.
We left that weather behind in the Midwest, and we're here in the rain and the mud.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and so let's introduce these other voices. We've got Adam Maxwell. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Back on the show. Always fun to sit down on the mic and talk things Three Gun with you. So.
Yep, except for coming to the desert, and then there's going to be rain the entire time we're here.
Shut your dirty mouth.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, you're here.
You all saw the forecast.
I didn't.
I actually didn't look at it.
Okay.
I'm superstitious AF. I don't look at that stuff.
Okay, we'll just move on to Josh. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you. Good to be back in Utah. So 2 years ago, we shot this match together. We were on opposite squads on the AMPM, or not the AMPM, the on-off format.
Correct. Yeah. This is my third year shooting it. It's been a blast. Every time I've done it, it keeps me coming back. It's a good match.
Yeah, it is, and I'm pumped that there's big long stages with like 5-minute part times.
Yeah, they did a little deviation last year, and they corrected that this year. I think last year with the shorter part times was a problem.
Seems like matches, for whatever reason, after a few years, they're like, oh, let's try something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's like if you sell out a match several years in a row, you found the secret sauce.
I think that's true, but I think that everyone wants to come in and put their own spin on things, and it just they want to try something different.
But if it's the same people putting on the match, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think last year, this match in particular, I think Brian Nelson took over running it. And he had some ideas to try a couple different things. He made a play, and some things stuck, and I think some things didn't.
Oh, I get you.
Well, I think we talked about it in the match recon too. Is like they kind of discovered lightning, but they sometimes new matches don't necessarily understand what it was that everybody liked. You know, until they kind of like tweak things, and then they sometimes find that they stumbled over the thing that everybody liked.
Yeah,
So
it's like that with creating content too with the show.
Yeah,
like I'll sit there and I'll look at the statistics and I'm like, okay, so what was it about that show? Was it that people liked this person? Did they like the concept? Did they like the talk? Did we say something funny in there? Try to figure out like what exactly it was, and then can we replicate that? And is it desirable to replicate that again, or do we want to keep trying new things? So yeah, I get that from that standpoint.
I think it's you, Dave. I think you bring everybody back.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. You've always been my favorite.
I was actually being sarcastic. No, not really. I wasn't. Just kidding.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, so we talked about it a little bit here, but we're going to be talking 2011s.
Yeah, we were kind of all going to be in one place at one time, so we were brainstorming on some things that we could talk about. And
what's like a hot topic that people talk about all the time but have no clue where to start?
You know what's super cool about all the guns we carry? When a house of people to get together, the one of the three guns to get handed around the most and everyone's playing with is the pistols, and specifically the 2011s. They're always the ones that are being handled, and everyone wants to see what else's gun, and it's definitely a very relevant topic.
And the AR-15 probably the least, I would think. I mean, I think shotgun's the next.
Yeah.
Does no one give a shit about the AR-15, or are they so personal that?
Yeah.
That's definitely at least from my side.
Personal?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm 6'3", and I've changed that stock so many different times to fit me and figure out exactly where I need to be that I hand it to somebody else who might not be as tall or as long or hell not left-handed, and that rifle doesn't work for them. So I mean, it's a wholly different thing.
Yeah.
And there's so much aftermarket out there that's so good that you can do anything you want your own way.
And so bad at the same time.
Yes. Well, my wallet hates it. I know that part, but
Well, I think a part of it too is that I think that there are so many different AR-15s, but at the same time, they're kind of all the same platform. The shotguns, you're for the most part, in the standard tube-fed guns, you're looking at maybe one or two, maybe three different models. So they're all kind of the same, maybe different colors, a couple different features. But when it comes to a custom-built 2011, they're like snowflakes.
Here's what I'm going to say: the AR-15 is a mil spec.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't. So I've got a Noveske receiver, and it's probably like one of the more. Oh, you've got an Obsidian, right? Mm-hmm. So those are very unique.
Yep.
Other than that, it's like mil spec is mil spec, right?
Yep.
So it's unremarkable, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like a Toyota Camry.
It's both unremarkable, and I think most people own more than one of them.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of times what we're talking about here, a lot of people only own one in 2011 or maybe two.
Or maybe none.
Right.
Yeah. So like, or in the handguns, like I think they're a little bit more unique, and people are still intrigued by different ones. Where I don't think people are as intrigued by a new AR-15, or a different one.
I will say that when Springfield came out with their Saint, I was like, neat, sweet, way to go. And that's me from a consumer perspective, but I was like, that's neat. Good for you. You now have like a Me Too, a belly button for everything else.
And
you have to really do something crazy to be noticed.
And it's the same build. It's the same build. It's the same, hey, I took XYZ parts, right? Like you said, the mil-spec receiver or anybody's receiver is the same thing for the most part. Mm-hmm. And then you strapped on, stock A and barrel B and made the handguard this length, and with all the extruded handguards now, they're all the same.
Yeah. Plus, AR-15s are so easy you can do them yourself. That might also be another thing, right?
That's it.
Doesn't necessarily require a gunsmith. Yeah. Right. So Adam, let's explain how we came up with this topic here. So we're here going to be talking about 2011s, which seems like something a lot of people migrate to when shooting 3-gun. Like people will start out with pretty much anything they have.
Yep.
Right? Any double stack 9mm will do. And so if you're listening to this and you're feeling bad because you don't have 2011 or the funds for it, listen and maybe learn something, but don't feel bad because I still shoot a Glock myself. So,
well, I think the conversation that I really wanted to have, and I think that's interesting and focused enough that we could fit it into one podcast, because this is a pretty big topic.
yeah.
If we skip past the why 2011 or what a 2011 does for us, we skip past entry level 2011s versus production 2011s versus custom 2011s. Those are three very different things. I think we're gonna approach this conversation kind of from this angle, especially if people like read the title and who's on here. A couple of us are officially affiliated with a builder, where Josh and I both officially shoot for Atlas Gunworks. We both currently believe that he makes some of the best ones in the world. That doesn't mean that other people don't make good ones too, but in this context, when you've decided to go down this road, if you play this game long enough, you're going to eventually migrate here. If you just said that home, you shook your head and like, no, I'm not going to. It's like, it's okay. You just haven't accepted it yet.
Yeah, I said the same
eventually
thing.
Eventually, the Kool-Aid will get you. It will.
I said the same thing, but I'm out there shopping as well. But I can't figure out if it's because it's that much of a better pistol, or if it's because that's what everyone else is doing. That's what the market's doing.
But for purposes of this conversation, we're going to assume that you've decided that you want to buy one or are interested in one, kicking the tires on one. We're assuming that you have somehow concealed a cool $3,000 to $6,000 into the discreet crevices of your house.
The gun fund?
Yes. We're going to assume that you've kind of done some shopping. And you're kind of narrowing in on the end here. You're eventually going to decide. You're going to open that product page for the 2000th time. You're going to hover over the add to cart button for just a second, and you're gonna take a breath, and then you're gonna take another breath, and then you're going to click add to cart. And when you do that, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to see a very concise message that says, "Thank you for giving me your money. We'll do whatever you want." Or you're going to be presented with a huge list of options, A, B, or C, A, B, or C, A, B, or C. And what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do, and I'm glad that the rest of you guys wanted to sit down and talk about this, is let's walk through some of those options and what they mean. A lot of us kind of arrive at a very similar gun, but also we have 4 pistols here just collectively for what we're going to shoot this weekend, but every single one of these pistols is different in some significant ways and some very subtle ways. So we just kind of we're going to just start at the front of the pistol and work our way to the back and describe what some of these options mean. And it's not specific to any manufacturer. Every manufacturer calls all these features different things. There's lots of manufacturers that make good ones. Just because all these pistols happen to be Atlas Gunworks pistols. But some of the other guys
what we had in front of us.
Can chime in. Yep. I personally own pistols like this from Atlas Gunworks, Infinity, Grundhauser Gunworks, Wilson Combat, Nighthawk, Dan Wesson. I've sold for other companies as well when I worked for Arms & Arms. I've walked over 50 customers through this process in building guns like this. And the other two guys, you guys can chime in too, kind of what your experience is on these guns. But we also own guns besides these in this category too. Right. So we're not just coming at this from Atlas Gunworks makes these pistols. We have kind of gone through this process a few different times to develop these opinions about these features. And it's not exclusive to one manufacturer, because we have other friends of the show who make equally good pistols. I would say Hayes Custom Guns makes a world-class pistol. Infinity makes a world-class pistol. Limcat, Scott Green works for Limcat.
Yeah.
Limcat makes a world-class pistol. So, and they're all doing similar things. They all have their own takes on them.
Yep. Yeah,
but,
it's funny you mention that, because let's see, 3 days ago I was over at Hayes Custom Guns, sitting around playing with the pistols they had in their shop. And so to now hold several pistols from different manufacturers, there's a lot of components that appear to have come from the same place.
Yeah.
And
You
in
know?
fact, they do.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dirty little secret in the 2011 world is that there's a handful of people that make a lot of the very coveted components that everybody
it's
uses.
just all fitting them together, right?
Exactly.
So, for example, this Adam, this is your pistol that I'm holding here, and this is the Maximus that Atlas makes, and it's got an STI International frame, which says Georgetown, Texas, which is where I'm living right now. Does also have. Is this a PT Evo grip?
It is.
Right.
It's not an Evo grip, but it is a,
I'm sorry.
a Phoenix
So-
grip.
Okay, so this is a Phoenix grip. Okay, so maybe you can explain what that means, the difference-wise.
Yep, we'll
as
get
we
into
go
that.
down. Okay.
We'll get into that later.
So those are components that were on several of the pistols that were sitting in Hayes' shop, right? So it's pistol builders, and they get these components from suppliers, obviously.
And it's a lot like coffee, too. I mean, coffee mostly comes from Colombia.
Yeah.
Starbucks coffees, I don't drink coffee, but I'm told that Starbucks coffee is very different than Caribou coffee is very different than Maxwell House.
Well, and you can take the same coffee beans and give them to two different roasters, and one will make them disgusting, and one will make them amazing.
And that's what we're essentially
so that's what
talking
we're
about
talking
here
about.
is the
Oh.
roasters.
Yep.
Dude, I'm surprised you pulled that one out without even being a coffee lover.
I'm deep, man.
That's a good one. So
Many layers to Maxwell.
Like an
Many
ogre.
layers.
He is my favorite onion.
So Adam, when you started shooting, you started shooting at EPA, right?
Yep.
What kind of pistols do you have?
I started with the very first pistol I bought on my 21st birthday, which was a Springfield Armory TRP 1911.
Okay.
in
Okay.
45.
And you've always been like a 1911 lover, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
carry 1911 as
I
your
do.
defensive pistol.
Yep.
Josh, what did you start with? Wait, let me guess. M&P.
Correct.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, he does look like an M&P guy.
Yep.
doesn't he?
Started with a
Oh, he also told me one time.
standard 4.5-inch M&P.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Shot 3 gun with that for the first year and a half.
Got it. And you own a couple 1911 pistols.
A couple 1911s. I also have what started life as an STI Marauder, just a stock Marauder from STI
Right,
that I then
okay.
sent out to a gunsmith in Michigan and had him do some upgraded work, some slide lightning, installed some components, did a better trigger job to it, and then now obviously for Atlas.
Okay. I gotcha. And then Travis, what you own several pistols and you've got several in the works? Wait,
Yeah,
is
I
this gonna
kind of
get you
have
in
an
any trouble?
addiction.
Do we
no,
do we need to
no.
bleep your
My
name
wallet, my wallet hates me. Believe me, it really
His
does.
fiance knows.
She knows.
Okay.
She actually signs off on most of them. She gets her own things. She shoots rifles and things like that, and has a few of those. So we're good there.
Okay.
My first pistol, it was a Glock 34 that I actually bought secondhand. I love that gun. I don't shoot it much anymore after falling in love with a pistol that's made of steel. There's just something different about them.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of that collector connoisseur type of person in my mind. I really like pistols. I really like to shoot them. They're probably my weakest part of the game, but the one that I like to work on the most.
Interesting.
I have myself an Atlas 5-inch gun. I love it dearly. I'm actually in the process of another build with another builder, a 5.5-inch gun. I've always wanted a longer gun.
That's a Hayes gun, right?
It is a Hayes gun.
Yeah.
We're Hayes is friends of the shows. We want to make sure
Yeah.
that people know we
Well,
like
I keep
them
saying
too.
Hayes because like I was there like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Aaron's a pal.
Yeah.
I'm sitting next to a gun case he let me
Yep.
borrow.
And
But,
Aaron's on Team Vortex too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Well, and you know,
Every time I go there, Ben's like, "Hey, Dave, look at these 5 pistols. Pull the trigger."
that's how they get you.
That's how they get you.
That's
Yeah.
how they get you.
First taste is free. Yeah.
he's not talking about the pistol trigger. He's talking about the one in your wallet.
Yeah.
But no, that's been a really cool experience as well. And I don't want to poo-poo anybody. Or I've had great experiences with all the pistols I built, and that's some of the most fun stuff. Is that, like Adam's saying, that design process. Working through those details is some of the most fun part of this whole process.
I've heard guys say that about like custom cars too, like hot rods or anything that they send to like a custom builder. It's like just talking about it and drawing up sketches and the build sheets like that was part of the whole experience for them rather than just driving the car on a Sunday.
And I think it's almost, and for me, I hate to say this because it's kind of a never-ending process then, but I think the build process is almost more fun to me than it's when it's done. Because I continually make myself better, or I continually find a thing that I want to improve on.
Right. Well, and I think that brings us to our ultimate topic here is, Travis, this is an intervention.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. just going back real quick, I mean, another thing that you talked about, we brought up PT, Phoenix Trinity. They're now building a full pistol. They have been a part builder in the Evo frame, their slide, and their the Evo grip, I apologize, and the actual frame for a long time. And, you know, they've been like the gold standard for everyone to build off of. There's a lot of people coming into that game as well that are starting to really show some promise and guys doing it differently. You know, that's what the best part about this whole thing is that people do it differently.
I think
you may love the Atlas aesthetic.
Yep. I think Chile Customs is one that's stepping up a lot lately. Seen a lot of good grips from them, more frameworks, more slides. So
he's had a Chile grip at their shop that I picked up. I'm like, whoa, this this isn't a porcupine. It's kind of cool. It feels amazing.
The new Atlas Hyperion, not to plug them too much, is moving to a Chile grip as well. So
interesting. Yeah, I like that grip. That felt really cool. Yeah. All right. So me myself, I've shot several. Just testing them out. I did borrow an STI for a match this year, and I found that was a really hard transition from going from a Glock to that without.
It is.
Yeah, with the grip angle didn't bother me much.
Really?
Travis just pantomimed a grip angle issue.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
it's a radio
totally
show,
fine.
Travis.
Yeah,
I forget the visuals sometimes. Sorry.
And I will call you on anything you do. So no, but that didn't really bother me nearly as much, like because I guess I was just putting the sights where they should be. Yeah, you know. But the friggin' remembering the safety was something I didn't think would bother me that much. And like my first pistol was 1911 as well, and then I switched over to shooting Glocks, and now I've got what I like to call a pillowcase full of Glocks, right? So. Not kidding. We could fill a pillowcase with all the Glocks I have, but. I'm serious. Stop looking at me like that. But shooting the 2011 was a completely different experience, and it was so much different that it was like I felt like a newbie again.
But you didn't just to ask a question. You didn't do a fair amount of training with that pistol before you shot the match,
right? I probably had like 200 rounds on it.
Okay, yeah. That's a tough transition because
I had a problem with my Glock, and I needed to borrow a pistol, and a 2011 was offered to me, and I was like, sure, sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about our experience here. So, Adam, when like you were saying, painting the picture of when you do click the buy it now button, back to front. Let's talk about what we're looking at here. Or I guess let's start with the. We decided we were going to start with the front, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so barrel treatments, muzzle treatments.
Yeah, a lot of what you're going to decide on the grand scheme kind of starts at the front, and the back ends of the gun's relatively the same, or I would say it's small features. I would say the other kind of key thing to point out here is this all kind of runs in streaks and fads.
Yeah,
yes, it does.
So now that you mentioned that, so Ben Hayes and I were talking about that when I was in the shop, and they actually had a customer come in while we were in there that had like a 1984 build or something like that that was done by a custom builder, and it had a front sight block.
Yeah.
That is now in vogue again.
Yep,
yes, it
came
is.
back.
In the friggin' 80s. Isn't that incredible?
For a time, there's a builder, one that popped up on the scene not too long ago. He was making stroking really popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that?
That's a Kai.
A Kai, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't a new thing, though, because it had been done by Dawson.
Right.
Again, in the 80s and 90s. But these things are kind of cyclical, but they also evolve each time, too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the sight block wasn't the same thing that we see now.
Right,
Yep.
right.
But similar concept, right?
Yeah.
But a similar concept. So,
I mean, 100%. Like, it was
Right.
the same function. Same function, just wasn't the same form.
yeah. If we were to just kind of briefly go through like a timeline so people could see, just in the time that I've been a customer of 2011s, I started out with everybody had full dust cover 5-inch guns in limited. Then the short dust cover guns got popular again. Then 5.4-inch barrels 2 years ago, year ago. Everyone was building 5.4-inch guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, Dylan's last gun was a 5.4-inch gun.
Yep.
And then going into this year, I guess I would credit Atlas with this. His theory has been that shorter than 5 inches might in the world of 9mm, because a lot of this was driven by USPSA.
Right.
USPSA guys
And
shooting 40.
limited division primarily shoots 40 caliber in USPSA. In 3-gun, we shoot 9mm.
Yep. So for a while, we've been putting 9mm barrels, applying essentially 40 philosophy to it. His philosophy there was if we're building a 9mm specific gun, maybe the ideal length is something shorter.
Yep.
I think currently he's hovering at 4.6,
4.6, 4.5, somewhere
or something
in
like that to get the cyclic rate of the slide to be the way he wants it, and then burn on the powder and all that stuff.
What about the sight radius though?
Well, I mean,
sight radius is an interesting topic. It's one of the big things that influence those 5.4-inch guns. Hey, we've got all these really tough shots in 3-gun. We got to go to places like Vortex shooter stores, and you've got these 70, 80, 90, 100-yard pistol gongs we've got to shoot, things like that. Long sight radius is going to help with that. And it's not an incorrect statement, but also it's not necessarily any more beneficial than having the right sight set up for that type of condition. So you can solve that same problem with the right if you look at my pistol, you'll see the sights on my front pistol are set up for that. And I've shot a 4-inch gun with that sight set. I've shot a 5-inch gun, and I've shot a 5.5-inch gun, and there's literally no difference if the sights are set up correctly from my perspective.
And essentially there we're talking about the width of the front sight blade,
Right.
and the width of the rear gap.
Oh yeah,
the rear notch.
The math makes sense for sure if you set them up incorrectly. But if you have like a properly set up 4.5, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Versus a properly set up 5.4, like you've got a whole inch more sight radius.
Yeah, but essentially they were trying to get some of the
25%.
precision, like the side to side slack out of it. So if you have a front sight that fills a rear notch the same, sight radius is essentially irrelevant because you see the same thing.
Correct.
The inconsistency comes from the gap in the front sight being to one side of the notch or the other. That's essentially the error of your device, of the measuring device. A device can only be how precise can a device measure something. That's how precise your sight can be. Is only how consistently you can hold the front sight in relationship to the rear sight. So dimensionally, if we match those up, we can match those dimensions for that relationship at any slide length. Is currently what the theory is. And the same thing's happening in Glock right now. Glock came out with the 19X and the 45. They essentially did the same thing. They shortened up a 34 and a 17 and said, well, a slight radius is really irrelevant, and it cycles a lot smoother currently. Yeah, but currently that's what they're saying, and
Well, so how about the guys that shoot national match rifles, right? They'll put the sight out there as far as they can, even in front of the gas block. Explain that.
I never did that, so I guess we'd
Okay.
have to get Brian Vaught on here and ask him that.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
But essentially, so if we're going to go back to our conversation, the first thing you're going to have to decide is what length of gun do you want? And essentially, the guns come in. So the commander length slide, the 4.5, 4 3/4 inch length barrel is one category. 5 inches the most common. That's typical government size, 1911 dimensions. And then recently, 5.4-inch guns have been in vogue, in the last couple of years. And then for a time, even before that, 6-inch guns were very popular.
I've seen some 6-inch guns on the range, and those things stand out. They're like clown shoes.
They are.
I feel like that scene from the Joker and the old Batman when he goes pulls it out and.
Yeah. We there was a guy. I probably shouldn't say his name. I don't think he'd mind, but his name's Mike, and he shot with us in Colorado. Just moved to Kansas, but he had a 6-inch gun, and I remember watching his draw, and I was like, "Holy shit!" You don't think it's that much difference between like a 5-inch gun and a 6-inch gun.
Yeah,
but it just appeared so much more of a draw stroke. It was interesting. Granted, it was he just first got it, but it was interesting.
And the recoil impulse is different too. And a lot of what we're going to talk about initially here comes down to recoil impulse.
Yep.
I've never shot a 6-inch gun that I liked.
Really?
Never.
Yeah. Well, it's got like a huge slide with a ton of reciprocating mass, right?
Yep. Yeah. Jake Latola, he has a 6-inch gun that he shoots for USPSA. He loves it. But they do feel and they do balance different. They do recoil different. So that's kind of one of the big first decisions you have to make. Most people select 5-inch. There's vocal minorities on both sides. going 4.6 and 5.4. But
does that get to be like the shotgun thing? It's like, this is what I chose, and so I have to defend my decision to the end?
It's exactly. And you'll find that with a lot of, I guess that's part of why, to go back up a little bit more, that's kind of why I want to have this conversation, because you'll have a guy, because it costs so much to buy one of these, if you ask the question on a forum or something like that, you'll get a bunch of people that pipe up, but they'll be like, well, I bought this one and I love it.
Yeah.
But they really don't have a basis for comparison.
Right.
Well, you can't be wrong. If you're wrong,
you made a bad purchase.
You're $3,000 out wrong. Like, that's not that's not a light. Yeah, exactly, on the light end. And so
so then you're if you made a bad decision, then you're an idiot, and you can't allow yourself to be that way. That's just like how the human brain works.
Or you go the other route and just do it again. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So Travis, what is this? Is this a 5-inch?
It is a 5-inch gun.
And then you're building a 5.4 Hayes?
Yeah, I've always wanted to shoot one. I don't know anyone that's, with me being left-handed, I have to cut safeties a little differently. I have a really, really high grip on the pistol. When the webbing of my hand catches the beaver tail, I actually lift the safety on the left-hand side, causing it to effectively soft strike, where the hammer falls and the trigger's it just doesn't work very well. Josh, unfortunately to call you out, brother, but you experienced this at
Nordic
Trigun, this year, having to shoot offhand. And being a lefty,
harder to do.
That's awful.
No coaching.
It was awful.
Match.
It was really hard, especially because I experienced it for almost a year. I finally ended up figuring out exactly what I needed in a safety, and now I'm extremely happy. But not being able to borrow one from somebody, I wanted a 5.4 gun. I've always wanted to shoot one. I've always wanted to try one.
Right.
So I made the commitment and saved the dollars and made it happen. I actually shot Dylan's pistol. It's really weird to shoot a pistol, though, with your thumb on the left side of it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold the safety down properly, but it still shoots really good. So that was actually the one that kind of pushed me over the top on that. But
all right. So, once you choose like barrel length,
so barrel
where do you
length
go from there?
Barrel length is going to be important because that's going to determine. You're going to talk about sight radius. You're going to talk about a little bit of velocity. There's a little bit of velocity difference between those barrels. In 3-gun, not as important because we don't have to make power factor.
Right.
And then also a bit on cyclic rate, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Once you've decided that, kind of the next macro thing you have to decide is how long of a frame you want, or how long of a dust cover. Essentially what we're talking about is the piece of metal between the trigger guard and where is it going to end underneath the slide.
Right.
So a typical 1911, if you were to look at a picture of a USGI government 1911, that would be considered a short dust cover.
Right.
In the world of 1911s, or 2011s, excuse me, they tend to be either that length or longer. And what they're doing is adding mass to the front of the pistol, which influences how it balances, how it recoils.
And that's non-reciprocating mass, too.
Correct.
So that just stays out there
That's
no matter
the key.
what the gun's doing.
If anyone's ever seen probably one of the most popular pistols in USPSA and 40 cals, like an STI Edge. Everyone's probably seen an STI Edge in 40 cal, especially the ones with the bright blue grip. Seems to be a really popular one you see everywhere. That's a full-length dust cover all the way to the end.
Yep. So full-length dust cover is that Edge model where it comes all the way flush to the muzzle at the end. Then a step back from that is what is known as Butler cut, named after Tarrant Butler, who I don't know the story, but apparently at some point he thought that was cool, and so did everybody else. So they started calling that Butler cut, where it's nipped. What would you say? Like, is it a half? It's not quite a half inch.
It's right around there. It's a half to 3/4.
Yeah, so it's a half. It's just
Is that a Butler cut?
Goes,
Yeah. So's mine. So's
all of
Josh's.
these except mine are Butler cut. That it goes most of the way out, and then it's just kind of nipped at the end.
Right.
Yep.
Does kind of look pretty cool.
Yeah. And then it also
nice design feature.
Yeah, you can come back to a short dust cover too. In addition, you also have railed versus non-railed.
Yep.
And if you don't buy railed, I feel like you're silly, because then you can't go shoot Surefire or other night matches.
Yeah.
Currently, the railed guns are the most popular.
Yeah.
That adds more mass as well. So when people are trying to shave mass off guns, that's what made the STI Eagle popular for a while. When that was popular, it was really light because it didn't have a light rail. Or an STI what they call the 3-gun model. That has a short, the DVC 3-gun, excuse me, has a light rail on it, but it's a short dust cover gun.
Yep.
So So there's many variants of frame length, And what that is you're essentially deciding non-reciprocating mass, and can you or can you not add a flashlight to it.
The thing, Adam, is that the straight long dust cover is actually the heaviest of them all, though, because the light rail is cut out from that long dust cover.
Oh, yes.
So
correct.
it is actually, there's the short is going to be the lightest, obviously. Then we go to a longer, either butler cut or not. Light rail option is going to be the next heaviest, and then the full non-cut dust cover is going to be generally, like we were talking about, everything's based on 40. You'll see that quite often. A full right to the muzzle end dust cover is common in those higher recoiling calibers, because you are trying to increase the non-reciprocating mass in relation to the reciprocating mass.
Correct.
While we're on the topic of mass and how it relates to 3-gun, you're kind of battling two different things. So we'll head down this rabbit hole real quick, and then we'll come back. So extra mass on the pistol, especially if applied in the appropriate places, does help mitigate recoil. So it will help your pistol come back to zero or recoil less. However, we spend a significant portion of our time, call it, say, 2/3, not shooting that pistol, having it hanging from our belt.
Right.
So and if you're not familiar with 2011s and you shoot plastic guns today, like most of us you're probably thinking, what's the big deal of having a pistol on your belt? These guns are pretty substantially heavier than...
They're heavy.
They're heavy. And then you throw 23 rounds in them.
Yeah.
They're a lot heavier. So you're kind of balancing those two things out quite a bit in your decision making.
And so that's what I don't get. Maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but the grip, most people maybe it's the style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seem to be going with the PT or the Chile, or I think there's one other one that's like a steel grip, and those are freaking heavy. Mm-hmm. So STI started with like the plastic grip, and I think SVI did too. Am I wrong on that? Am I right on that?
They originally started as the same company.
Right, and then they split. They had a divorce.
They had a divorce.
Retained
intellectual property rights to the two-piece frame that is the wide body magazine.
So
frame.
then those are plastic with some different patterns on there for grip and stuff. So why are people moving to steel?
Well, first let's knock out why they did plastic initially. There's a manufacturing advantage.
You can just mold it.
Yeah. So basically, to get this system to work with a higher capacity magazine, they needed to redesign the grip. So they basically took something that is one piece in a 1911. The grip and the frame are one piece in a 1911. Made it two pieces. Now, it was easy to make that part out of plastic. They also, to this day, they will still adamantly argue that the plastic grip is a feature. It is an advantage because it helps with recoil absorption, because the frame itself is flexing independent of the
steel frame.
Yeah, that's vibration and shock that's not going into you, the shooter.
Oh, okay.
That's what they'll say.
Which I could probably buy into in
I could too.
a lot
That
of
does make
40
sense,
and
yeah.
a lot of 45. I think when you get down to 9mm, I think it's less and less so.
Yep.
It
But
could be.
then when we started going into metal grips, I would say for a long time, really, Infinity was your option there.
Yep.
I think there was another company doing them as well. I'm not sure. That was a little bit before my time. But they started doing metal grips for a couple reasons. One, we're, again, adding more non-reciprocating mass to the pistol. So we're making the mass that's not moving greater than the mass that is moving.
Right. And I guess those are probably focused on, and they're bread is buttered by USPSA. And so you have your pistol in your holster for maybe 3 steps before you draw.
At most.
Max,
At
right?
most, yeah.
You're not running through the trees and hanging from monkey bars and shit like that.
Well, the other thing on mass that flashed into my head when you were talking about that too is, I mean, you're the other third of the time that pistol is present. That means you're holding it out at arm's length.
Yeah.
So go ahead and hold a 2.5 pound dumbbell out at arm's length for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, we have 500-second part times tomorrow.
Exactly.
So do that for 500 seconds.
It doesn't take long for that weight to start adding up. When you're excited and shooting a gun, it's less noticeable. But to get an idea of what you're actually doing, go ahead and hold out a dumbbell at arm's length for a little while. That's what you're doing when you're holding out a pistol, and you're going to fatigue at some point. But the metal grips, we're increasing non-reciprocating mass. We're also giving it more of a solid feel to it. It doesn't flex in your hand. It doesn't It doesn't, like the grip. They can put more aggressive textures on it because they're milling into metal, and it'll stay that way for a while instead of melting plastic.
Some of these, and I've felt like a lot of Bear PT grips, and all these grips. There's 4 PT grips here. They all feel different, and you can do various things to them to reduce the pokiness, but you can't add pokiness, right?
That's correct.
So from the factory, they come like super uncomfortable, so to speak, right?
I like it.
Once you grip it though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in.
But if that's your preference, then that's cool. But
Yep.
if not, then you can kind of like mill it down.
Right.
Yep. And I believe the Chile grips are the same way. I don't have much experience with the Infinity grips, but it is interesting though because from my manufacturing background, and Josh, you can speak to this too because you're in this sort of arena as well. It's like, they didn't deburr this.
Yeah.
Like these are sharp edges. Like this is undesirable in an aerospace machine part, but here it's a feature.
Yep.
It's funny how like life works, right? Like one man's feature is another man's like, we got to fix
reject
that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then in a whole other world with plastic guns and plastic grips, guys are sanding off texture and applying grit. A super sticky grit feature to mimic this.
Some of those plastic grips.
Tape.
Yeah,
Or
or skateboard tape. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I've found does not last nearly as long as.
No. It wears off.
But you can change it too.
You can't change it.
If you have commitment issues, you can change it.
Yep.
You can change
It
colors.
also has
you
the
can change
diameter
grit.
though.
Yes.
Because it is thicker. But so the as far as some of the plastic ones, I've noticed that their grip features, or they're like, hey, this is our grippy grip, or whatever the hell they call them. They're actually smooth to me, and it seems like counterintuitive because I'm looking at it and it looks like I'm going to pick it up, and it's going to be all pokey and scratchy, and then you pick it up and it appears smooth. So some of the grips that I've used that I like are the silicon carbide, right?
Yep.
Where you sand down those features back to like just a base original sort of smoothness, right? And then you add like a glue and then the sandpapery stuff around it. Mm-hmm. And that can be changed too, right? It's much more messy, much more involved than taking off grip tape.
Yep.
But that can be changed too. And I found some of those like you throw it down, it feels like it's Velcro to you.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, my Glock was like that.
I
had silicone carbide done to my Glock by Zev when they were going by the name of Glockworks.
I remember those days.
Yeah. So, that can be done too. The other thing to keep in mind about the plastic grips is that, especially when they're textured, especially when they start to do the texture on them, you can actually squeeze them hard enough so that the mags don't fall out.
Yes, you can.
So you can actually, especially the stippled ones. That was a big thing too. Is when guys were really death gripping them.
Yeah.
They would try to get their mag to fall out, but then so in a match the mag wouldn't fall out, and then they'd get to the safety table and the mag would drop free. Well, what they were doing is when they were really squeezing on it, or they got into there was a soft spot or something like that, you can actually squeeze the mag or squeeze the grip enough that the mag will not fall free.
Right.
So that was another reason guys went to the metal grips.
Yep.
And then probably the other one, kind of, I would say this is more the
part of it's got to be style, right? Like the Butler cut, like it's just in vogue.
Yeah, a little bit that, but also like when you kind of get to this level in the sport, like if you've committed to 3-gun enough to spend this kind of money on a pistol, you're probably spending a fair amount of time doing it.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of like the gun's in your hand enough, you kind of want it to have that feel.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I have no problem listening to or doing podcasts with earbuds. You are a professional podcaster. Mm-hmm. You use a headset.
Yeah,
a nice headset.
When I edit, I have very nice studio headphones that allow me to hear things I would not hear through earbuds. Mm-hmm. But when I listen as a consumer, I listen through earbuds.
Yep. So when you're spending this amount of time with a pistol, when you dry fire as much as Josh Tarrant and Freilich do, like they're spending a lot of intimate time with their pistol. They just want it to feel nice.
It reminds me of like taking a road trip like with a Cadillac or taking a road trip with a Kia Forte. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's you're getting the same place, but one is just more and more comfortable
it might be a little superfluous, but when you pick up a 2011 pistol with a nice ergonomic feeling, solid feeling metal grip, it feels like it's complete.
Yeah.
And having someone who has both, and whether it's a fad or not at this point in time.
And it balances really well.
And that is the other piece. The balance
Because it's not top heavy.
It's not as top heavy.
Yeah.
The balance is really, really nice on it. However, I do have to give one, I believe to be one benefit back to the plastic pistol grips, and that is mag insertion.
Yeah.
The mags do insert better.
Oh, really?
There's more room for air. If you get them a little bit sideways, they're not going to kink and get stuck in there. So that's the one advantage that I've found so far is you got to be even cleaner with a metal grip in your mag insertions.
Yep.
So
and that varies mag to mag because my Infinity gun, I get it twisted in there all the time and it gets stuck.
Yep.
So
But I never ran into that with some of these
on
other
that
ones.
topic, should we talk about Magwell now that since we've talked about grips?
Sure.
Should we just stick in the same place?
Sure.
Yep. We got to circle back to barrels at some point too.
Yep. Well, the one thing also we have to talk about before we leave grips in the world of metal grips, we can use different kinds of metals too.
Yeah.
These are all steel.
Well,
No.
are they?
That's aluminum?
Titanium.
That's titanium.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mine is aluminum.
Why, Josh?
Because
Just had to be different. It's lighter.
That's
so
why
it's lighter.
That's why
It's lighter. So it has the advantages of a metal grip, but it is lighter. My gun has an aluminum. Mine's a prototype gun of what I think Atlas is going to call the
God, I was way
Arabis. I've asked them 3 times how they say it. They never answer my question. But so I got an aluminum grip as part of that prototype. And then Josh has a prototype grip that's now available, which is a titanium grip.
Yep.
So lighter, but no free lunch on that. To get into a titanium grip, that's another $1,000.
Machining a chunk of titanium is super expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah. And what did you say the price was for?
I
$1,000
believe it's $1,000.
Wow.
That's just the grip. That's there's no frame. It's just the grip.
There's no
or a
puppy
steel grip.
involved.
A
Does
steel
not
grip by
come with a free
comparison
puppy.
is
$650.
$650.
Might get a hug.
You might get a hug.
Might get a hug.
Dude.
The one thing I will say though, that going to this metal grip in general, we've talked about how it does it makes it, to me, it just makes the gun more rigid. It balances it better. It's more rigid, but it goes in your hand and it just. Why do you go to a 2011 in the first place? Was it going to make you a better shooter? Well, the answer is probably no, but you'll feel more confident. You'll want to shoot more, so maybe it does. But I feel when you grab one of those guns with a metal grip on it, that it's just you're locked in. It just feels it breeds that confidence.
It's like shutting the door on a Porsche versus shutting the door on a Chevy.
Well, it's kind of what attracted me to the guns initially too.
Exactly.
Like in 1911 feels like a gun.
Yeah.
It does. A Glock sometimes feels like an airsoft pistol. 1911 feels like a gun.
Whole pillowcase full of Glocks feels weird.
I bet. But that brought it back for me too. That it kind of brought me back to what I liked about 1911s to begin with is that part.
All right.
And so you want to talk about Magwell?
Yeah, since we're talking about the grip, it ends at the Magwell, right? So.
Yep. And Magwells, you'll find, there's a lot of parts that do the same thing.
Exactly. I feel like Magwells are Magwells as long as they don't have like a little ridge in there. And a lot of the Magwells you find for polymer pistols seem to have like a little ridge for whatever reason to make that transition, and then it just gets you hung up again. It's kind of odd. But I gotta say, since you mentioned Limcat earlier, which has made me think like, oh, we should talk about the Magwell. So Scott Green let me dry fire his pistol. Actually, I gotta shoot it too now I think about it. When I was at the SHOT Show aftermatch, right? And he's like, put that mag in sideways. I'm like, what? And he's like, put the mag in sideways. And you put the mag in sideways, and it auto-rotates it forward. And unless you put it in like 95 degrees to, the proper orientation, it will turn it just no pressure, no guiding from you. It will turn it back the other way, so you could be super sloppy with that magazine.
Yeah,
it's incredible, and it almost seems like voodoo. It's weird playing with it because this doesn't seem like it should be happening.
Did he have that on a plastic grip or was that on a metal grip?
No, that was on a Limcat steel grip.
Steel grip, okay. Yeah, I knew they just came out with one not too long ago. I wasn't sure,
but that grip, that Magwell is like
it's ridiculous.
It is voodoo. It has to be. It's really cool. I haven't shot with Scott at a 3-gun match recently where I could actually ask him about it, but shot some PCC with him a ways back, but I digress. In the Magwells, there's really 2 options as far as style goes, and then there's 2 or 3 types of metal in general.
Yep.
You'll find, at least for me and on a lot of our pistols here, most of us are running a big hands style magwell that's actually cut out and almost flared.
Are you talking about the profile on the outside?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that when you run your hand along the grip, it actually it cuts out so that you can run your hand longer towards the bottom of the magwell. For guys with a little bit smaller hands, you'll have a straighter angle from the outside of the magwell to the grip frame, which will allow them to kind of use that as like kind of like the old HK sniper rifles that had the palm swell on the bottom, that would hold you up there. It kind of does that for those guys.
Yep.
I, of course,
Got to help out the little guys.
Hey, man. I got all my fingers.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there it is. That's a 9-finger joke.
9-finger joke.
But the other thing you'll see is, to get back to where we were, is I'm counting fingers over here again. But is you'll see some magwells are aluminum, some are steel, and then you'll see some that are actually brass.
Yeah.
Because some guys really want that weight.
Mine's brass on my Glock.
Yeah.
Which I think is important on a polymer pistol because there's no weight.
There's
in
no
the
frame weight in a Glock. There is none.
Yep.
But mine is steel. What is on yours, Adam? Is yours an
I
aluminum?
believe mine's aluminum.
Feels like aluminum.
But I mean, it all comes down to once again balancing the pistol, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as a magwell goes, there's plenty of them out there that are really, really good.
Yeah. They're pretty much the same diameter too. In this realm, like how much flare is actually on them, it's pretty standardized. There are tactical magwells that are smaller, give you a little bit less, but I'd say everyone kind of arrives at the same diameter of a magwell. But yeah, like Travis is saying, really what you're deciding there is mass and then taper. And I would say, if I have one regret on my first Atlas pistol, the one that I was shooting when I was shooting limited, is that I went with the standard Dawson taper magwell that didn't have the big hands. So it didn't have this reverse ball cut taper in it to allow for a quote unquote larger hand. It still fits. I still really like it. And I wouldn't change it. But I would say for folks making the purchasing decision, I would opt towards the large hands cut unless you've tried the other one and you know you like it better.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And it really comes down to the width of your hand as you go across your knuckles.
Right.
I don't know if there probably is a number that fits for everybody, but I mean, I don't have huge hands. I have pretty large hands, but I mean, I would say the average individual would be in one of the bigger hands options. Maybe.
Can you imagine Dylan easily? He's probably got like an extension on there.
Yeah.
He's got some paws.
Yeah, like if he gets a little bit too off center on that thing, he's probably going to crack it because there's not a whole lot of material holding on there.
Can't give him a titanium because he'll just crack it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They don't work well in compression.
The other subtle thing too on magwells, I believe, I think this may be a Dawson exclusive feature, but you'll see ones that have a little plastic insert on the bottom.
The Dawson Ice.
I want to say that the Limcat had that, but I might be remembering that incorrectly.
That one's actually a metal
is
insert.
That not?
It's a replaceable
There is
metal
an
insert,
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
and it's metal.
Oh, it's
actually,
metal? Okay.
It was polished to a very high sheen, at least the one that I saw. It had a
Okay.
very, very high gloss polish on it. So
Okay.
it probably helped it twist.
So that's giving you a little bit more a slicker surface. So when you do hit that side, that it deflects into the center. The other thing too is you'll notice that those inserts come in different colors.
Right, yep.
And oftentimes the
Gives you a visual
white
index.
is more desirable because, the guys are looking for that visual index that when they roll the gun over, they get that little flash of white, and that's what their eye is focusing on as they're indexing the magazine into the magwell. So that's a desirable feature as well.
One additional benefit that I noticed not running a Dawson Ice anymore, I'm using Atlas's proprietary magwell, but my previous gun I used a Dawson Ice, and with that plastic insert, when it's on my holster and my rifle is slung on my back, that plastic insert stopped my magwell from banging at my rifle really bad.
Oh,
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep, just a different, interesting observation going from a Dawson Ice with that plastic insert to one that didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I think the last thing I want to talk about while we're back here on the grip, and then Adam, you can tell me if we missed anything, but this pistol I'm holding here is the only one that has a grip safety on it.
It would
What's up
seem
with
that
that?
way. It would
Yeah.
seem that way. The part is there.
Is this not a grip safety?
It is not.
It is not. Oh crap!
I think that one. So
why no grip safety?
So the initial design on the 1911, if we go back to that, back when the 1911 was designed, it was cavalry soldiers was still a thing.
Right.
So the U.S. Army Cavalry is the one you have to thank for that. They were, when converting from revolvers to semi-auto pistols, they were convinced that they needed that safety there so that if you didn't have a firm hold on the pistol, that you couldn't press the trigger. And that lives on in the design. Mm-hmm. For purposes of our conversation, guys get pretty aggressive or liberal with their grips and in how the this is going to get a chuckle, but the crotch of their hand grabs the grip. Sometimes they don't get in there tight enough and deactivate that safety.
Right.
So that led to, for the most part in the competition world, especially USPSA, they would pin that down.
Right.
So the safety was still there, the safety was still active, but it was mechanically defeated because they basically machined in a pin that held it off all the time.
There's an anatomy component here as well. So I personally I run a pretty tight grip. However, we're taught in this game with anything with an active safety is you ride the safety. So with my strong hand, my thumb is actually staying perched on the safety the whole time.
Right.
As soon as you do that with my particular anatomy, and this happens to a lot of people from what I understand, is you are not able to put the appropriate pressure where that grip safety is.
Mm-hmm.
So my previous gun that did have an active grip safety, I would come out of the holster consistently and start to pull the trigger, and that trigger would either be incredibly crunchy because I was basically forcing it through it, or the trigger was simply dead. It would not work.
Yep. And you're also working with a handicap there, like legitimately. I mean, you
Sorry,
have
I'm
one
laughing.
less.
Brett's up there wrecking the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just heard him through the microphones.
I didn't hear him. I did.
My bad.
Dave's not making
This will be a nice surprise when he listens to this later. Sorry, Brett. Well, so
yeah,
that's
so
something I experienced too when
Yeah.
I was using that STI. Is there were times where I couldn't figure out how it was shooting, or how it wasn't shooting.
Yep.
And in fact, this is a story that makes me sound like an a-hole. But I was shooting Rock Island Armory, test firing it with the Hayes boys. This is 2 years ago, maybe. And I was like, oh man, this one needs to be reworked. It's broken. And I tapped the trigger. I'm like, yeah, look at it. And I turn around, and by that time I just changed my grip just enough and whacked it again, and it goes. And so I friggin' AD'd. I was like, oh my god. And that was really stupid. That makes me sound like an idiot, but that's okay. Definitely learn from that one. But but it, like you said, Josh, it was definitely a grip issue.
Yep.
Yeah. And like so mine is pinned on my open gun. They didn't ask me if I wanted that. They just did it.
Yep.
I just kind of let him build the gun the way he wants to build it, which is good advice, by the way. If you're out there,
I like to do
let the
things
gunsmith.
my way.
Yeah, the
I like to do
gunsmith
things
knows
I
what he
like
wants
to
to
do.
do. Just let
I
him
don't
do
like
it.
to do things other people like to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you've chosen, I think, go ahead. Vogel's got a good parallel here.
Yeah. So I don't know how many. Am I the only one here that's tattooed?
Yeah,
Okay. So
we're all pure.
yeah, you are.
You don't.
Yeah,
You don't know where I have tattoos or don't have
Whoa.
tattoos.
Josh is not volunteering any information by you.
check this
I'm
out.
just being very cryptic.
But you don't go.
Hold on, I'll show you guys. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding.
Roy Orbison.
But
This is why this is a podcast and not a video.
Mom just tattooed on my ass.
just kidding. But
Who's
yeah,
mom?
Just mom.
just a photo.
All the moms.
But you don't go to an artist, and I'm going to say the same thing out of all the pistol builders, right? These guys take metal and make it into art. It just happens to be extremely functional for what we do. You don't go to an artist and say, "Hey, this is my drawing. I want you to tattoo the same thing on me," right? Or you don't do the same thing for your pistol. You say, "Hey, you have a style," and that's the one thing that's really cool about pistol builders, is they all have a different style. But you go in, look at what they do, and figure out how you guys can come together for your dream, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of picking the pistol builder, is what style do they have? What is their, what is their artistic style as far as that goes. One of my favorite looking guns is I really like panel cuts. I think they're really cool. The rectangular cuts, either on like an angle aggressively pushing forward or vertically. I think they're really a really interesting cut, and they give a lot of character to the gun without being extremely over the top, if you will.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing with that whole topic is you're not going to go in and be like, hey man, if you want to build the gun, dude, build the gun, like, right?
Well, the other thing I would say along that is, like, you have to pick your tattoo artist that you identify with.
Works in your style,
that works with your style, right?
Yep.
Because there is a pal of mine that went to a pistol builder, and he's like, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking of. And the guy told him in these words, you'll get what I build you. And he went and bought an Akai instead.
And
man.
You'll
And he's
also
happy.
find if you work with enough gunsmiths, a lot of them are like that.
Yeah.
So, be ready for that.
But
and
if that, you'll get what I build you is what you want built, that's fine.
It works
But
fine.
if it's not, go elsewhere. Don't
you-
try to
yeah.
force the issue, right?
I can tell you from just a very clear example. If you want a 5.5-inch island barrel pistol, you probably don't want to go talk to Atlas. They're not the builder for you. Adam would tell you that in his opinion, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's not the best way to build a 9mm pistol. It's not the way to go. You want,
And on that
maybe you want to go
point-
talk to Hayes.
and that's the thing is, like, I wanted a 5.5-inch gun, right? Yep. And I don't want to ask somebody to build something that isn't in their passion, what what kind of pistol they're passionate about building.
Yep.
I went to Hayes to get a 5.5-inch gun. Not to say that I wouldn't go back to Atlas in a heartbeat for another pistol. I mean, I'm drooling over Nemesis for the last year and a half, but
It's bad.
it's
really
dude,
bad.
he sees my webpage when I'm at work. There's always one up. It's like I'm looking at everybody's guns. I love them all. But if you're going to do that, go to somebody who has a specialty, and everybody has a little bit different specialty.
Yep.
And that's what's so cool about this whole thing is, as long as you take the time to look in to see who's doing what, everybody's producing a very outstanding pistol.
Right.
So it just comes down to cost and time and all those other things. But
And even like one of the kind of iconic things on slides, Infinity has a very distinctive style with a very big ball cut on their forward cocking serrations.
Yep.
That goes all the way through to the slide.
Yep.
Or the frame, excuse me. A lot of people wanted that. A lot of people didn't want to wait 24 months to get it. So if you want to just kind of like poke a pistol smith, and more than one of them feel this way, ask them to do that cut.
Yeah.
Because
really?
They don't like to do that.
It's not theirs.
It's
Somebody's
like,
signature move.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you want me to build you an Infinity. It's like I don't build Infinities. I build Grunhausers. I build Atlases. I build Hayes.
Yep.
And so it's little things like that. So when you're picking a style, and I mean, not to say they won't cut one for you like that, but just like as an informed consumer, be aware that that's what you're doing. Kind of like look at their style and decide if that style is what you want.
It's like going to ask a band or musician that's got their own identity to
Freebird!
do a cover of someone else's song, right?
Freebird it is.
Those aren't my songs. I'm not playing those songs for you.
Exactly.
I don't care who you are. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it's like, yeah.
All right, so
So circling back, we're talking about grip safeties, and there's actually a couple other things interesting here about this. To talk about the grip safety itself, lately the PT Evo grip came into style. So if we could back up even further, they kind of went away from that square traditional STI style grip, which would probably be would be representative of mine. Mine's kind of the older style. Again, that's somewhat of a prototype gun. Infinity did kind of this contour where they did the step down into, from the back strap into the beaver tail. Mm-hmm. It was very ergonomic, and that was very desirable for a while. Phoenix Trinity went kind of another step in that, and I think they improved on it better. Like 2.0, their version of it was pretty good, and so a lot of people right now want the PT Evo grip. For Infinity to do that, for PT to do that, there physically is not space inside the grip for the safety mechanism.
oh,
So it's impossible to have a PT Evo grip with an active grip safety. They're all pinned down because there's physically not enough room for it. So that's something to be aware of as well. And then
so are these Do you consider these safe pistols? Like, you'd be okay dropping one loaded?
Yeah.
Yeah? Even with like a 1.5 pound trigger, some of these have?
Yep. Because the grip safety itself is a fairly dainty piece of metal.
Yeah, it's like a leaf spring kind of.
The thumb safety, on the other hand, is a bar of tool steel that is physically blocking the sear.
Yep.
So I have dropped 1911s before on hard stuff. Yeah, I got no problem. I have no problem carrying a 1911 cocked and locked. Inside the waistband, strong side, appendix. I don't care that it points at my junk, all that stuff. I'm perfectly comfortable with all of this. So yeah, I don't consider them safe or unsafe pistols that way. I always left them active, given the choice.
Right.
But there's a couple pistols I have, one with an Evo grip, and this one, it's not active. I really don't think about it that much.
Yeah.
And then the piece itself can also have a few different shapes too. On ones that are active, they have what they call a memory hump on them. I believe that was either a Wilson or an Ed Brown innovation, but they actually added more material there so that there was more material for your hand to push on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what made me think yours does, because first of all, it's moving.
Yep.
And then second, it has that hump.
It does have that hump there. Yep. And then the pieces themselves also have different shapes too. Wilson makes theirs a different
beaver tail
than EGW. The beaver tail itself is a different taper on all of them as well. But that's about all I have to say on grip safeties.
All right, so move on to actual safeties.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the next logical step is the actual safeties. Josh, you have a very similar grip to me. That's a really high ride, but you have the advantage of being right-handed.
Yes.
So you get to run a single side safety. That's on the actual active side of the pistol, which if the pistol is pointed away from you, it's the left side of the pistol is actually how the safety indexes into the frame, and then is blocking, like Adam said, with a piece of tool steel, your actual sear. So on that side, as a right-handed individual, you are at an advantage as far as being able to run that pistol if you have a high grip, like Josh or myself. However.
And then real quick, and then why you made the comment that I have the advantage of being able to run a single-sided safety, and why I believe, and many believe that is an advantage in this game, is because the requirement is that when we dump a pistol, safety has to be on. We're dropping these things in buckets, sometimes with boards in them, sometimes laying flat on the table.
Sometimes carpet. You got all kinds of stuff in there. So if I'm dumping a pistol onto a safety mechanism, it's very easy for that safety to just get snicked over, and then now you've got a safety being abandoned, not unsafe. Right.
So I dump my pistol on the non-safety side. So I train myself to put my safety on, and then on the non-safety side, lay it into or down onto whatever I'm laying it onto.
Got it. So basically, you put the back side of your strong hand toward the ground.
Correct.
And dump it in that direction.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. So I got a stage DQ when I had a double-sided safety. And that was one of the first times it happened to me, and I kind of thought there's got to be a better way to do this. I think I heard or knew that Greg Jordan had that happen to him once, and then that's when I kind of started asking questions about, like, hey, what's this double-sided safety thing? Is there a better way to do this? Should we go on single-sided? And I've been a proponent of that ever since.
One of the problems that I ran into, I keep remembering all these issues I had when I was shooting a 2011. As you guys are talking about,
it was a very traumatic experience.
No. It wasn't because maybe it was because I completely blocked out the whole experience because I was like, oh no, I think it was pretty cool. But then as you guys keep talking here, I keep remembering shit. But one of them was I kept flicking the safety on with my right index finger knuckle.
That's all about safety design because a lot of these will have a primary safety, like for me being a right-handed shooter, the left side is your primary safety where your thumb is going to ride, and they can make some very minimalist side safeties for the other side for the instance where maybe you do need to go a weak hand and still manipulate the safety.
Yep. And the other thing was that I couldn't get the safety off because the skin of my right hand was on the ambi side, on the left side or on the right side of the gun.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there trying to like mash the safety off while also chewing up my hand at the same time.
Yeah.
Several problems.
It's the exact same thing that I dealt with.
With a lefty.
Yeah, I mean we have the same problem except for the fact that as a lefty, the side that I want to push on, that I want to ride and hold down, is not the side that activates the actual physical mechanical part, right?
Right. Yeah, because so you're basically using like a lever to get over to that.
You're effectively,
part.
Yep. It's
and it does feel different when you're using it with your left hand versus your right hand.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not as crisp.
What happens is when they do ambi safeties, they actually are pinning them together in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, it's a collar, not a collar, but it's a
tongue and groove.
Thank you. That's a perfect example. Yep. It's a tongue and groove that fits together on the inside of the pistol, and that can actually flex a little bit depending on how thick they are or something like that. And every company that makes an ambi safety makes a different mechanism or a different durability of material in order to stop that from happening. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I've switched over to an EGW safety, as they have actually a sleeve that fits over the whole assembly and holds it extremely tight. I mean, you want to take my safety off the gun? Have fun. It's going to be a while. But it is extremely rigid in there. So now that I've machined my safety to fit for me and machined it down to, ironically, what is exactly a lot of the tactical lever width, which is 155 thousandths. And you'll see this on a lot of the tactical guns. Mm-hmm. If you're going to run an ambi safety, they'll actually run a 155,000 wide paddle on both sides. And that ended up working for lots of people because then you have that thinner paddle, but you can still go strong side and weak side.
Right.
We don't do that a lot, though.
No.
I mean, that's a USPSA thing in all reality. And I keep it on there because, I practice. Sorry for all the USPSA people out there, but I shoot USPSA for practice. And it's something that I like to keep on there. Mm-hmm. But I thought about just completely cutting it off. Just leave the paddle and be done.
Well, that's the other thing too. To kind of understand about when you're talking about the thumb safeties. Most of the first the standard thumb safety, the single side only safety, you have not only a like an advantage that Josh was talking about for the game. You have a mechanical advantage as well. You have more force, more leverage to engage or disengage on the detent. So it is easier for the mechanism to work pressing on that side, up and down. Most ambi safeties, I believe I have this terminology correct, work on what it was initially developed by Swenson. And they have the Swenson style ambi safety is that tongue and groove, where there's a groove or basically like a fork coming from the strong side or the what would be the left side of the pistol. And then the ambi lever is the groove that fit, or the tongue that goes in the groove. Mm-hmm. As you use an ambi safety of that style, you can start to spread the groove apart.
Yeah,
and that's where you get slack. Mm-hmm. So also in that, like if you press on the ambi safety, if you try to engage the safety on the ambi side, I find that it's harder to do than it is on the left side.
Yeah, I was just playing with your pistol, and I was experiencing the same thing.
Yep, and so that's fairly typical. And it's so there's just a little bit of flex there, or a little bit of binding happens when you try to do that. So I need, I'm left-handed, so I need an ambi safety. But like I only use the right-hand side to go down. I always go up with my index finger.
Oh, really?
On the other side. One, because it's just more ergonomic for me to do, but also my part's going to last longer.
Oh.
Because you're not torquing on it.
Yeah, interesting.
So if you use that Swenson-style safety, something to keep in mind. Also, most of the manufacturers that we've mentioned in the show, they're not using that Swenson style. They're using the EGW or that Evolve style, where they have a pin that goes through in a sleeve, where that's less of an issue, but it still torques a little bit. So that's just something to be aware of.
So you're deactivating the safety with your left hand, which is your strong hand, thumb, and then you're activating the safety with the knuckle, it appears, of your index finger.
Yep. And so that's the way that I run it. I run an ambi safety because I need it. Mm-hmm. Every 2011, 1911 I has one. I would say if you don't need it, I would side with Josh though in that don't put it on there if you don't need it.
Yep. Right.
The other thing you have to decide on these is how big of a shelf do you want on there
Yeah, because
to push on.
So, some of these safeties have like a tang that keeps your thumb that you can almost use like as a what do they call it, speed pedal?
Oh, gas pedal.
Yep, gas pedal, and then it has like a little tang that
Shield.
keeps your shield that keeps that keeps your thumb from riding against the slide, or vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people like those. I've never liked one. Travis had one for a while on his gun.
Yeah, I found that with my lifting issue that it actually pushed me further out onto the gun, so I had to.
Yeah.
I actually removed that and went back to a classic safety. It was a fear of mine, though. I mean, that's a really good point. The shielded safeties are something that if they work for you, they're going to work great. Ruben actually runs one.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I had that fear going into this gun because I had never had a thumb safety gun that I was shooting in this environment, and made that thought process, thought it was going to be better, ended up not working out for me. That's one thing that with this, that there's going to be a couple of things that may, you may get your pistol from your builder, and one of the ergonomic points doesn't jive with you. It may happen, It's something to note. It's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Every builder I've ever talked to has been like, yeah, man, like things happen. We'll work around it,
Yep.
They were there to work with you. But that's just a really good thing to note.
Mm-hmm. And on a pistol like this, like when you're trying to make this decision, because there's various styles of these thumb safeties, I think it's fairly unanimous. Have one that's large enough that you can push on with your thumb, like actually like ride your thumb there the whole time, and we're assertively putting down pressure on that the whole time we're shooting the gun. What you want to be careful of though is on ambi safeties. Does it get in the way of your knuckle? I know that's the ergonomic thing that Travis was talking about that he fought for a long time.
The specific knuckle, though, make sure. I mean, that's your trigger finger knuckle. So when you grip the pistol like you mean it, you'll realize that your hand actually flattens out along that pistol side and will actually raise up a little bit. If you grip it and just kind of are relaxed, may not happen. But when you grip it like you're getting it, then it all of a sudden will be an issue for you.
Or under recoil. So it may not be a big deal even gripping it, but have that gun go off 30, 40, 50, or 100 plus times, and then that safety starts to smash into that knuckle there a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'll really start to notice it, and it'll make that spot really tender. It's not, that can be a really issue, especially if you have a very high grip like both Travis and I do. We're very, very far up. I mean, for me, I'm almost parallel to the bottom of my slide. And I've seen a lot of guys whose grip, you can still see the grip screw, they're so low, right? So it just depends on what your grip is really like, but that's something to really be cognizant of.
Yep. But there's a flip side to that too. The shelf can be too big as well. There starts to be things that happen when it can be ergonomically incorrect, or as an extreme example, I mean, Josh had the thing where you're shooting weak-handed, and the knuckle starts activating the safety as you're gripping it with your weak hand.
Yep.
I think Jake Latola has fought that a bit too. He had a really big thumb safety on his for a while, and ultimately went away from it because there are some that are just a really big, obnoxious shelf.
Yep. There's options.
And that was with this pistol, right? That happened with at Trigun?
Yes,
That's not your. That wasn't the nickel one.
Nope, it's this one right here.
Do you want to explain what was happening on that one? I know it's kind of painful for you to talk about.
No, it's
right.
good.
It's good learning.
We all learn.
Experience.
So, and this is a good thing to tell people because if they experience the same thing, then it'll save them time diagnosing the problem.
Yeah. So I'll try not to make the story too long. So long story short, we were handcuffed to a chair on a stage. You had to pull your pistol out of a bin with your weak hand. And engage targets from a seated position, then uncuff yourself and take off. Pulled my pistol out, shot the first couple of rounds, and then all of a sudden the hammer wouldn't fall. Hammer wouldn't fall. I would rack the slide, pull the trigger again, and the hammer still wouldn't fall. Now, if you understand how a 1911 or 2011 works, if your safety is fully activated, you cannot rack the slide.
Right.
The safety impedes the slide's movement. However, I was able to rack the slide and rack rounds out, but the trigger was still dead. What had happened was, because I was using my left hand and because I have that high grip, I was basically putting my safety in an intermediate position to where it was still blocking the sear, and the gun would not fire, but it would activate the slide every single time without dropping the hammer. I'm actually doing it right now. So it's that little beautiful spot right in between the detents where
kind of on, kind of off.
Yep. So in my decision making or processing of the problem, what was going on, I couldn't figure it out because in my head I'm saying if my safety was on, I wouldn't be able to do this. I would not be able to rack the slide. I'm racking live rounds out on the ground, come back up, take a shot, and it wouldn't go off. I unload, show clear, and zero to stage, and everyone else was sitting there and was able to could see or figure out what was happening. In the moment, I wasn't able to. So, yeah, it was a pretty crappy way to finish a stage. Feel really dumb when that happens.
That was like the first position, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't shoot us. I got 0 points. I literally.
Like 135 failure engages.
We walked right over to the safety table, and I'm like, this is going to be hard for you to watch, Josh, but here's what happened. Yeah. And,
yeah, it comes down to the fact that I A, don't shoot my pistol weak-handed very often. Yeah. B, I've got that high grip. And now that I know that, when I know I'm shooting offhand, I just purposely will slide my hand considerably further down and
so
just
you
deal
didn't
with
change
it.
anything mechanically?
No, because the only thing really to do is to put a double-sided safety on, and to me that's just a DQ waiting to happen. Putting these things into barrels.
Just knowing you, this isn't going to be your last pistol that you have in your possession. So the next one that you spec out, are you going to use that same style of safety? Are you going to use one that's a little bit skinnier?
No, I don't think so, because then I'm compromising on having the appropriate landing pad for my thumb. So any skinnier than this, I think this is a pretty standard width. If I go any skinnier than that, then I'm going to start having something. I've got a very small portion of my thumb sitting on when I drive the pistol and ride the pistol when I shoot it. So no, I think it's just a learning opportunity, and now that I know it, now that it's happened once such a painful way, it'll never happen again. I can promise you it'll never happen again.
So as you know, for perspective, Josh's safety, if you look on the side, the serrations, he has 8 serrations. They're a fairly standard size. So there's 8 ribs on the side. I would say that's a medium width.
Yep.
Mine's got a little bit more of a taper to it on the side that my thumb goes. I'm more like 9 or 10.
Yep.
But I got a little bit more of a taper to it. A tactical style one, I would say we'd probably have more like 4 or 5 serrations.
Yep.
So that's kind of how you get an idea for how thick they are. The other thing, so we might as well just finish out the grip. The other thing is mag releases.
Yeah.
Thing to know about mag release, I would say the part itself is fairly standard.
Correct.
There are lots of accessories to extend that button.
Yeah. Forward, backward.
Yep, forward, backward. And here's what you need to know about that. Just take all of those and just say no.
Yep.
Just say no.
Say no.
Every single person who buys one of these pistols tries to tell me that, well, my hand's different. I need one of those. I need because I can't quite reach it. I got to roll it in my hand. Blah 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 blah. I've sold hundreds of these things. Okay.
Yep.
Every single person who has used one of those has lived to regret it.
Yep.
And here's why. Because when you squeeze your hand really hard in the moment, you are either going to squeeze it with your middle finger of your firing hand, or in my case, it would be my I will squeeze my knuckle down onto that thing, and your mag will drop out in the middle of the stage. It never fails. Every time they'll run it for a little while, they'll think it's great. Every single one of those persons, unless you have a injury in your hand. Ruben has a hand injury.
Disconnected thumb.
He insists that he needs it, and it works for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But seriously, people, don't do it. Just don't do it.
I was that guy. I had to do it too. And then about the second time that in the middle of a match, I never did it in training.
Yep.
Never even did it at local matches, but be some big match somewhere. And I come out, draw my pistol, and boop, magazine falls on the ground. Yep. You're like, God. Yep. Did I not seat it well? And you know full well you seated well. You inadvertently hit the mag release because you got some big little tang sticking off of it. There it goes.
Yep. I had one on the Infinity. I bought my Infinity secondhand. It had a little bit of a one on there, and I didn't want to take it off because it's original to the gun. It's blended in. It just works with the style. I didn't want to do it, but man, drop those mags on the deck enough, you'll huck that thing in the dumpster. Yep. Believe me.
Yes, you will.
Well, there are two differences that we do have here amongst us. There are a couple of different lengths for them that are ever so slightly different, but they are different. What do you think? They're like a 1/16 of an inch longer, something like that?
Oh, yeah, maybe like 4th hour or something like that.
I want to say it's like 194 versus like a 154.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Both Adam and Josh have the longer one. I actually have the shorter one, and I've never had an issue. I've never been looking for more button to access.
Yep.
Is there a reason you guys went to those, or were they on the guns when you got them, and that just happened to be?
That's what came on the gun.
Yeah, that's what came on the gun. Mine's long enough. It does freak me out. I squeeze the gun, and I do feel it sometimes. I will feel my knuckle pushing on the button, and it's usually like, I hope I didn't push on it enough that the mag falls out. But I can feel it. I can feel it push on there.
As a group, then, I mean, is our general consensus the shorter one's probably the better way to go?
It is. Roll your hand, push the button.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So Josh's buddy Brett has a
He has the left-handed one on
left-hand
there.
safety, and I'm looking at the way it activates. This is like another voodoo thing.
It's voodoo magic.
Voodoo magic.
Kind of odd.
I don't know.
He's
I don't know if
wrong-handed.
I can get behind that.
I can't either. I use the standard size one. It's cool.
It is really cool, but
It's
I
it's
just
very
don't.
easy to activate too. Brett just nod. Does it work for you? Yeah,
Honest-
works. So yeah,
We got the
works
nod.
okay for me.
Honestly, though, I don't understand why you right-handed people like the standard magazine release. Like I like pushing it with my index finger.
you push with your index finger?
Yeah, I push it with my index finger, and I will never get a finger call.
Yeah.
No.
Even at like the most adamant of USPSA matches, I will never get a finger call and reload because my finger isn't in there. It's pushing on the button.
Yep. And I actually have to stabilize the pistol with my trigger finger and use my middle finger to drop the mag.
Oh, so you really break the grip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, that's what
Maybe I'll train myself out of it to be faster one of these days.
My
But
buddy Bill always bought the ambi mag for his pistols, and then did the weird
Did the
finger
index
grip.
finger thing?
And he's righty.
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So he pushes them with his finger, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, you know, it's the it feels the same as my AR-15, and we've had this. He and I have had this conversation before, so when he hears this, it's not gonna be surprised. But my thing is like, this is clearly not an AR-15. It operates differently, so you're not gonna, in the heat of the moment, mistake it for an AR-15.
No.
So
That's why I can jump back and forth to Glocks too, because like
yeah.
in my mind my head says this is not a 2011. Like I never do it wrong on a Glock because when I have it in my hand,
Yep.
I can tell I'm shooting a Glock. I just know.
Huh, makes sense. All right, guys. So we have, I think we've covered almost everything that we want to cover here. So the one thing that we skipped was barrel types.
Yes.
And there's like 1,000 different barrel types.
A
There's
lot
like
of barrel
big
types.
ass barrels, little ass barrels. There's
Bushing barrels.
Bushing
there's-
barrels, yeah.
pushing, bull,
Island barrels.
and island.
yeah.
And then
so
we
there's only
sight block. There's only 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bushing is the classic 1911.
Mhm.
Adam, do you have a little background on
Yeah.
where that came from?
Let's
John
see.
Moses Browning. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
JMB, man. But tends to be a thinner profile, and then the lockup comes from a bushing that's machined into the end of the slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
That's what my 1911 is.
Tends to be lighter weight. So if you're trying to be if you're trying to put the gun on a diet, bushing barrels tend to be where you're at. Also, you can take the gun apart without a tool. The recoil system, that's probably something we should talk about too. The recoil system doesn't require any tools to take it apart. Bull barrels was a way to add mass to the gun again, non-reciprocating mass.
Yep.
So they used a much thicker barrel that itself locks up when the slide comes all the way
Is that
forward.
accuracy?
I would not say so. No, you could get a bushing barrel to shoot and lock up just as tight as a bull barrel. Island barrels became a thing.
Schumann's.
Yeah, Schumann came out with the island barrel, or the sight tracker was
Yep.
what it was often known as. That's where they machine out a piece of the slide, and so that there's a rib on top of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So when the slide reciprocates back, it doesn't move, and then the sight is machined into that as well.
So when the slide reciprocates back, the
sight
sight
stays
doesn't
place.
move because the barrel, it's the sight's on the barrel,
Correct.
not on the slide like normal.
Correct.
So it's easier to track it with your eyeballs.
Yes.
That's
Hypothetically.
hypothetically.
There are guys who can tell or
Josh
swear
is
they can
furiously shaking his head.
I would really challenge you to tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's
some Jedi mind trick in my opinion. I think that's an awfully fast reciprocating thing for somone to visually recognize and B, be an advantage. So I think people
I don't think it comes from that, though. I just think it comes from the fact that you have, once again, another 1/4 inch of metal that's at least 1/8 thick, and it's 4 inches long on the top of the barrel.
It is a really cool way to reduce slide mass.
It is. I mean, you talk about you're reducing reciprocating mass by adding more static mass.
But there is a point of too much mass off of the slide that becomes an actual hindrance to the performance of the gun.
No doubt. But, I think the benefit of the island barrel simply comes from you're adding a pretty good chunk more metal to that barrel.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing with the sight block barrels. Same thing. We're adding non-reciprocating mass to the end of the barrel. So I would say they all can be very accurate.
Oh, I don't think lockup.
That's entirely how it's built and who puts it together.
I don't think that makes any difference as far as accuracy goes.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is what benefits do you have as far as how the gun, once again, we got kind of into this topic of how the gun recoils, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that a little bit, 5-inch guns are such a way, and 5.5-inch guns are such a way, and the shorter slides are a little faster, and they used to do a certain way. But I think that extra additional barrel weight, in the case of the sight block, in the case of the island barrel, and some of the bull barrels, there's some people actually putting heavy sleeves on bull barrels.
I don't sleeves.
I don't know. I've never shot one. I don't really have a lot of experience.
Tungsten
sleeves.
Who was
Accel does a lot of
Accel
does that. Who builds Travis Gibson's guns?
EMG.
EMG. He does the tungsten sleeve, doesn't
Eddie
he?
Garcia. He's a really good dude. I actually talked to Eddie a lot on them just randomly.
Yeah, I heard he's a great person. I've never met him myself.
He's one of those guys that actually, just another personal style thing. A lot of his guns go out stainless.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool thing because he's like the only one that does it. But they're really pretty, but they're a real modest looking gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But Travis's gun is an absolute hammer. And once again, like I said, it's all individual preference, right? It's what aesthetic do you like?
Yeah.
I like coatings because I'm lazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And the island barrels are aesthetically very cool.
They are
sex appeal,
super
it's
cool.
Very
sexy
appeal
looking guns.
more than it is
Yes.
advantage on the sight. Tell yourself what you want.
Okay.
But it's slide lightning. It will add significant cost to the gun.
Yeah, because there's a lot of fitting that goes into that.
It will
and it's
easily
usually
add
hand fitting.
It will easily add $500 to your build for the barrel and for the machine work that goes.
A lot of
into
time
installing
spent
it.
hand fitting.
And
Sure.
if you rack the slide over the front of the gun, like a lot of us do, I would say most of us while we're playing with them here, you will pinch your hand in there for sure.
Yep.
We could talk about slide mass a little bit. Basically, there's a balance point between heavy and too heavy. Yep. Basically, the lighter the slide is, the faster it cycles. The heavier it is, the slower it cycles. Yep. There's a happy medium in there somewhere. One of the things like Atlas Gunworks, one of the things they do is he has a very specific mass that he's going for.
He's got a target.
Yeah, and so that's why a lot of times he'll build the gun however you want, but his slide cuts are very specific because he has worked out that very specific mass.
Well, and once again, to bring a stylistic point in, the Atlas kind of I don't know even what to call it, but the stirrup cut, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Right in front of the rear sight.
Behind the breech block. Yeah.
I've seen that on several other guns, though.
Yeah, I mean, some people do stuff there, but
it's a weight slide.
It's a balancing
lightning.
act. Yeah, it's a balancing point because if you think about it, in front of the breech, in front of the ejection port, we can take a lot of metal out of there.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you think about it, you can make holes in pretty much any of that as much as you want to,
And
for the most
go
part.
all the way through to the barrel if you want.
Exactly, unless it's a single stack gun for USPSA, then you can't. But ka-chow. And so having to come up with weight in the rear so it's balanced is a different thing entirely.
Yep.
So it's just another one of those things that is stylistically different.
It's a nice, convenient place to rack your pistol if your other hand is carrying something, let's say.
Yeah.
Also off the side of your holster or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. So are we happy with barrels there? Anything
Yeah.
else we want to add?
Yep. Barrels.
We talk about side block.
Yep.
We talked about sight block a little bit. You can go pretty deep in the weeds on barrels, but that's more or less what you want to know about barrels. But I know we're kind of running long here. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the real reason that we shoot the guns.
The trigger.
The triggers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the trigger system itself, it travels in a track straight back and forth instead of on a fulcrum.
Right.
Like pretty much every other pistol will. So that's what gives it its character. There's various amounts of uptake and weight and things like that you can put into a trigger. As far as selecting one,
all these are flat triggers, by the way.
all these are flat triggers.
Yep.
I'd say that's very individual preference.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
So
Once you go
I
flat,
gotta say,
you kind of
so-
never go back, I think.
yeah, on the topic of fulcrum triggers, like I've started shooting AR-15 triggers that are flat, right? And then switching back to a curved, like, nah, doesn't feel right. And so I'm kind of stuck with not stuck, but I'm sticking with the flat triggers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just
I
an
personally
ergonomic
like it
thing.
better. Yeah. Totally ergonomic thing, so it's personal preference, right? I like it better because it doesn't matter where I grab it. I'm going to get something flat and consistent, right?
Yep. A big, like, as a choice, though, one of the things you have to pick flat versus curved. You also have to pick length.
Yeah, I was noticing that some of these are different lengths too, and Travis is like super freaking far out there on his.
Yep.
I got those AP hands, man.
Yeah, because you get them big.
These all
claws,
have
baby.
the X-Line trigger in them. So
Yep.
so not only do you have an individual choice
What's an
of
X-Line?
X-Line is the brand.
Gephardt is the manufacturer.
Gephardt
of Germany.
is the manufacturer of Germany.
Um,
So they're brought in. So you've got a short, medium, and long in both flat and curved. There's a couple of other even wilder options out there that are not as prevalent, but then they're also have a significant degree of adjustment to them as well. So you can pull the whole trigger bow out and actually unthread it to give it, or thread it back in to give it some fine tuning adjustment along the way as well.
Yeah.
Huh.
One of the things that have you ever like logically broken down the processes to where your trigger is and why?
As far as like the trigger length and
like where do you want to be when you grip your pistol? Where do you want to be?
Yep.
Because for me, my thought process on it, and why mine's probably one of the further ones, is I want that last digit of my fingertip to be perfectly perpendicular to the pistol. The minute I put my finger on it, because that way all I have to do is barely move my actual trigger pad when I want that shot. And then when it's reset, I'm right back to square, and I can begin again.
Yeah, essentially for sake of radio or podcast, I mean, if you look at your finger, if you crook your finger like you're going to press a trigger on a pistol, it's curved, right? So it moves in an arc naturally, and what we're trying to do is place it so that you can most easily press the trigger straight back to the rear without inducing some sort of right to left bias. And so if you wear a size large glove, you pretty much are looking at like a medium length trigger. I think that's Adam did a really good video on this. I'm trying to remember.
Yep, he did.
But you're looking at pretty much a medium. If you wear a larger size glove than that, you're pretty much looking at a long or a large. And if you're smaller, if you're wearing like small to medium size gloves, then you're probably looking at a small size shoe. The actual the actual part of the trigger that you touch itself
is the shoe.
Yep.
So Atlas has a formula for it. I would assume that most good gun builders will have some formula that they will extract that information from their customer and
seems like a
the
very
appropriate
important
measurements.
thing you want to ask a customer.
Yeah, it's like building someone a suit without getting their measurements. I think you want the measurements.
Well, and I mean, SVI was the first one. Infinity was the first one to really give people the opportunity, and they actually had a piece that rather than the threading, which this trigger does, to give you length extension choices, you could actually slide in a piece that would extend the trigger face within the same shoe setup. You would just choose your length, choose your top curve, bottom curve. They have about 400 different options, I think, in those, as well as every color under the sun. Once again, allowing you to exercise, what is your style.
Right. So trigger weight.
For the most part, what the trigger actually feels like, what the trigger weight that you actually pull, that's pretty deep in the weeds. That's all voodoo magic that those guys aren't really going to want to tell you how they do it. Yep. It has to do with the leaf spring that they use, the return spring, the hammer spring, the main spring, and how they actually stone the edges of the sear and the hammer itself. So you can kind of tell them weight. You can kind of tell them how much uptake, how much creep you want in it. highly subjective, and that's really on like our ability to articulate it into words. I will say this though, the hammers themselves. There's a few different styles of hammer. Like is it a solid hammer? Is it a spur hammer like the old 1911s?
Yeah.
Is it the teardrop, the Delta Commander style hammer, or the flat hammers like the ones that Infinity does that lay flush? I will say this, that for the most part they're picked for style.
Yep.
But there is a bit of tactile feel to them too. I can feel the difference the way that flat Infinity hammer falls, the way a skeletonized EGW hammer falls, and the way that like a heavier mass like a Colt or a Wilson hammer falls too. So
can you feel it under live fire or dry fire only?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I can feel it. It just snaps different. But then that's 50,000 rounds down the line of shooting these guns too. But just keep that in mind too. Like especially a lot of these guys, they want to use a specific hammer. Like when I bought my first one or whatnot, I didn't like the style of it. Just happened to be an EGW part, but I just didn't like the way it looked. He's like, no, I want to use this one. Let him use that one because that absolutely influences how the trigger feels.
Well, and a lot of that stuff comes in a kit, right? Mm-hmm. So your leaf spring, your sear, all that stuff your disconnector, all that stuff comes in a kit in your fire control. And there's a couple of different companies that make those. You talk to any of the major gun builders, they're all going to use one of like 2 or 3 or part houses, and that just happens to be what they use.
Mm-hmm.
Is one better than the other? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. As long as it's made out of a good steel.
Yep.
And the companies that we're talking about, they're using them because they're made out of a good steel.
And they're machined.
And
so you won't find. I mean, that's one thing that we haven't even touched on because it's just not a thing in these pistols. Is anything metal injection molded? That doesn't exist.
Yeah, not in the grade of pistol that we're talking about.
No, not at all. So it's not something that anybody who wants to just take that off their list, you've achieved that by even considering this as an option. So, I mean, that's done. And then, really, in all honesty, you can pick any number of, 2, 3 hammer styles, and you'll be good to go because it'll fit with the rest of the kit. And that's what's kind of cool about those.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right.
But that's a pretty exhaustive list of the things that you have to look at when you're ordering one of these pistols. And maybe, I hope we've shined some light on it for you so you can maybe help make your decision. There's things we didn't even talk about. We didn't even talk about the mags.
We didn't talk about mags. We didn't talk about like different
sights,
slide cuts and sights and stuff like that. So there are certainly more options out there, but we are we're running quite long and we're going to lose people.
Right. Right. So, to go, if the audience is interested in this, I'm sure you'd want them to reach out to you and then we can rope in a guy like Aaron or Adam and they can go even deeper into the weeds on this.
Ben Hayes is someone I'd love to have on the podcast too. He's just like an incredible mind when it comes to this stuff here too. So, if something comes up from this that you're like, hey, I want to know more about that, let me know. And Dave@3gunshow.com, email, and you can Facebook and Instagram and all that, and we can get some experts on.
Yeah, but at least from the user standpoint, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list of the things that you have to at least consider when ordering these, so you don't get down the line and wish you'd have done it a little bit different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, tons of options out there, tons of great places, and even people that make off-the-shelf 2011 pistols as well that
Absolutely.
you can just go down to your local gun store and purchase. So lots of options, and try to shoot some, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Shoot some. Find anyone you know that has one. See if you can put some rounds down range.
I know.
Ask what they did to ask how they spec their pistol out. And then find out if you like that. If you don't like that, see if you can find someone that has something different, and so you can compare it to.
Yeah, I know because of what the pistols cost. I know that new people to them are very hesitant and nervous to ask people who own the pistols. I can promise you this: I don't know a single person who owns one of these guns that would not love to tell you absolutely everything about it. if you ask them, and I don't know a single one who wouldn't let you shoot it a little bit if you just used your own ammo. Or, well, I don't know even about that. Sometimes I want to. But I don't know a single one of them who won't let you shoot their gun if you ask, even just a little bit, So if you see one that's cool that you want to try out, just go ask them. Just go ask them, and, you'll probably get to take it on a little bit of a test drive. And that 10, 15 rounds that you shoot through that thing might influence, a few decisions that you're making on a $3,000 to $6,000 pistol. So
yeah. So getting out of your own way and making a new friend would certainly help you out in that case. Save you a few $1,000s.
Yep.
So, all right, dudes, this has been fun. Appreciate you sitting here and yakking while we're dry firing and stuff, and throwing in your input on the builds that you've done and the pistols you own. And Travis, we need to get you a new one, dude. I know you got one in the works now, but
we need to make that happen.
Gotta always have
you know a guy. I mean, you're closer to him than I am. I could probably make a phone call too and just see. But I don't want to be the guy that it calls too often.
No,
because if it's
you already got that one locked down. I mean, we need one after that.
Yeah. Well, that's already in the works too, so don't worry about that. Got to keep it going, man.
I think, Travis may need a new one, but I think Dave needs to get one.
I think he does too.
It's very possible.
Dave needs to get
it's very
one.
possible.
He does too.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. The Glock hasn't died yet, so.
Glock's never gonna die.
Yeah,
they just fade away.
It's a great way to end the show. Thanks, guys.
Fade away. No problem, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
You're not going to do the bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Oh, shit. Forgot.
There's still time.
Bye-bye.
Hey, before you take off, if you're into this type of content, check out patreon.com/3gunshow. That's Patreon. There you will find bonus podcasts, all kinds of other different benefits of being a supporter of the 3-Gun Show. And you can support yourself for as little as $5 per month. That's patreon.com/3gunshow. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.